Okay, so these are the steps for assigning your consent to Minister Emoven to stand liability for the council tax at your address. So one of our Minister Emoven has volunteered to go through the steps so that we can record this for you. And so we're with Minister Emoven in Herefordshire, and you've got the council tax website open, haven't you?
Yeah, it's all ready to go.
Great. Okay. So Leeds City Council have a very good example of all of the different titles in their drop-down box. If you go in there to notify them you're moving into the area. So you can actually search the council tax website for moving into the area, and it'll tell you the steps of what you're supposed to do to notify them of the liability holder at the address. So then there's a form. What can you see there?
Is it on the Herefordshire one? I've got homeowner, tenant, landlord. What it at the top though, it's got URA and it's hasn't got required. So I could just leave that blank, I guess.
Oh, right. Okay. Leave it blank then if it gives you that option, because none of those are applicable to you. And like I was saying before, the Leeds City Council have got liability holder as an option, because you don't have to be any of those other things to stand surety to somebody for their council tax. Anybody can stand surety to anybody else. So, but I've only ever seen that in Leeds City Council one. If that happens on your council site, that it's saying that you do have to determine whether you're one of those tenant, landlord, property management options, then just tick the one that's most relevant to you, and we'll add in the box if it's required at the bottom, and what you write in that box, additional notes, let's say that you are the liability holder at that address. This website doesn't give me the options to determine that. So I'm notifying you here in this box that everything else stays the same, and just to update your records with the information supplied on this form as the liability holder, Minister Emoven, this address. And that's it really. So we'll work our way through these boxes now, defining things for the council. So this is what they're getting, useless data and an empty credit file, so they can't launder, do their laundry service at this address, which is why it's so important that everybody does this. So what else can you see there?
The next one is, are you currently living in Herefordshire? So I mean, that's a yes.
But you would put no, because then they want your address in Herefordshire.
Okay.
What they're looking all the time to do is joinder the history, the data together. So if you were already, if you tick that box yes, then they would, the next question would be, what was your address in Hereford?
See, and then use the legal fiction and all that sort of thing.
Yes. This forms the credit history that then is sold to companies that are, you know, then going to launder your credit file to supposed to lend you money, for example, for you to exercise your right of use for anything. So we're giving them unquantifiable information, so they can't gamble on it. So in that box, I'm moving into Hereford from outside of the area.
Well, that's just got a yes or no. So
No. So it's no, I'm not moving within Hereford.
Okay. I can't add to that. I'd have to add that to that at the bottom of the page.
You're just putting, you don't need to, because Minister Emoven, you've just appeared, haven't you? People have got to comprehend what it is that they're doing, because when we first started talking to people about doing this, they were concerned that they felt like they were, one guy came back to me and said, look, I love everything that you can talk about. He said, but I just have a problem with the council tax and I feel like I'm committing fraud. I'm actually saying something that's not true. And I said, look, what you've been committing fraud right up until now. You've been saying something is not true because you are truly not that legal fiction and you truly do not have the right of use to use it. So what has happened in your mind is that the legal fiction has vacated the possession of your mind that is reflected at where it is that you reside. And Minister Emoven has moved in at that address because it's now, Minister Emoven is now the occupier of your mind. The universal law occupies your mind instead of committing fraud upon your soul. So what imagine Minister Emoven has just appeared. Of course, it's come out of another area. It's not existed in Hereford before in that form that is now exemplified in you. And Minister Emoven is your liability holder now at that address because it is your legal fiction that you do have the right of use of in order for you to reserve all of your rights behind it. And this is how it works. So anyway, after a few weeks, he came back to me and he'd done it. So I was very happy, and he's been one of our most prolific events to date. So it's, these little hesitations is just part of the pre-programming that we've already had. And it's getting rid of that and saying, bloody hell, look what I've programmed myself with up until now, and stood fast in that and said, this is, anything other than that, and I'm committing fraud. In actual fact, we're all committing fraud because we believe that that is our title to use. So this is a good way of really shutting down these doors that we talk about of that belief. So the next question is,
your new address is?
Right, so you're just updating the address. It's the same as what you would be doing if you normally. If you normally move into a house to be a Vatican debt slave once more at that address, you just simply go on and notify them, I've moved into this address on this date, this is the address, and this is from the date that I did my assignment is the date that that they may ask you, what date did you become the liability holder? What date did you move into this address? That's the date on there, is the date that you did the assignment. What day did Minister Emoven become your legal fiction, and all your accounts were assigned to it in, not in accordance to, but in alignment with the mercantile law definitions, which is to the party standing surety. This exemplifies you've got a trust.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, there was two options on that, Herefordshire or out of county. So I put Herefordshire in. In this case, I can do that.
Out of the county?
Yeah. Your new address is.
So sorry, your new address is in Herefordshire.
And then the next one is your full name.
Minister Emoven.
Ready.
And at this point, if they haven't forced you into claiming a title, you can put Minister as the first name and Emoven as the last name.
And so email, should I give them the Proton email?
Yeah, oh, you can give them the trust email if you like.
Okay, the trust email, yeah.
Which is trust@universallawcommunitytrust.com. Obviously, the more people, once this goes up on YouTube, they might start to flag that address up. So it's up to you. It's quite nice to have Minister Emoven liability addressed to that address, like arriving in your Proton email, because if anybody ever needed to say to you, think about what it is that you're doing, that you've now got an ID that's got Minister Emoven on it, with your warranty card. And normally, if you wanted to go and open a bank account, what would you need? You'd need an ID and a proof of address. Well, now you've got your council tax claim in a bill in Minister Emoven's name. What you're doing is you're securing everything that we thought was, it's only true if it's done this way. Well, what's the validity? And we look at it as being valid, or official, but just look at the holes in it. As far as a standard as official or valid goes, it's just a matter of anybody can say anything. It really is what we're exemplifying here. So it all comes down to what it is that you're claiming then. So it's helping people really perform this quiet title on their minds that look what I've been claiming up until now, and look what my definition of valid was. It was just a piece of paper with a name on it and a piece of card with my photograph stuck on it. So it's the reason why we're doing this is to blow the holes in our own mind, really, of this definition that we've been given. So what's the next question?
The next one's phone number, so I'll just pop my mobile in there, I guess.
You can, or you can put the helpline number, which is 01865 522 420.
Alrighty.
And then they get a nice surprise if they do want to speak to anybody about it.
They'll we get a bit of it.
And I get my bit of fun for the day.
Yeah.
But if you want to do that, obviously, if you want to put your telephone number in and exemplify yourself as Minister and Ren, go ahead and do it.
I guess I could do that at a later date, couldn't I? We'd always go
Yeah,
back.
this is the standing surety part. People are like, oh, you know what are my 5 hours worth? Well, if you go and do this to somebody for somebody else because you've learned it, it's priceless. What price can you put on that? Being there at the end of the phone in a situation where somebody else might not feel that they were able to handle it. And that goes for why we have an accountant, a lawyer, because we think that we can't handle it. So until you get to the level where you've learned how to handle that situation, you've got people around you in the community. Use their 5 hours. This is what we've said. Put our numbers in there, and the people who feel comfortable standing these nutcases down, then put their number in there. It's a great exchange.
Yeah, but with the restoration of rights and things like that, if we can get a hub going and up and running and getting people in there, hopefully we'll be doing a lot of this sort of thing. So yeah, I mean, I will change that number as and when I'm sort of feeling more up to speed with the whole sort of mechanics of it.
And that's it. It's the more you practice it. And so doing this now, you're exemplifying yourself in that level. I could do this. I feel comfortable doing this. Just everybody do whatever it is you feel comfortable doing. Build that. It's just perfect that praxis, whatever it is that you're practicing. And then you've got something to stand on to take the next step. So that's why, we can't really talk about discharging mortgages and official receivers and all of that with people who haven't done these simple basic steps first, because it's just going over my head. Well, you can't absorb that bit because your mind's still stuck in all of the bits that you haven't discharged the liabilities of yet. That's all. It's that simple. So it's the building these steps first, so important. So then the next question.
See, you are moving to, in your new property, you will be the tenant of council tax, the owner, partner of existing occupier, boarder, lodger, moving in with parents, children, friend.
What was the first one?
The tenant and liable for council tax.
What is the tenant and liable? That's one option. You're the tenant and liable for council tax.
Yeah, that's it.
So we've got one option, which is you're the tenant and liable for council. That's a bit, what's the word? Assuming, isn't it? So is there one to tick none of the above?
There isn't. This is a required field.
Right. Okay. So so we've got tenant and liability holder. What was the next one?
Owner.
Owner.
Partner of existing occupier.
Existing occupier, it says.
Existing occupier, yeah.
You're the existing occupier.
Yeah, I'm also a boarder lodger. That's the next one.
Well, really, you're not, are you? Because the right of use has been assigned into the trust. And so it doesn't matter whether you've got social housing contract, private contract, a mortgage, you are a title deed, you are assigning the right of use that document grants you into the trust. The trust is then assigning you back the right of use with the liabilities discharged. So you've got the right of use liability free for however long you want to exercise that, or in agreement with the terms and conditions that you've already got from the contract, because we don't want to be causing the landlord a loss either. Right. So you're no longer a tenant in any shape or form, because you're the secured party creditor. You're actually standing surety to the landlord at the moment. And you've got the potential to be able to discharge that landlord's liability that he thinks he needs to charge you rent for, but we'll get to that once we've covered the basics with the council tax and discharging our own liabilities before we start to pay the Kindness credit account forward and help others with it. So the next option was what did you say the next option was? Lodger?
Border lodger, yeah.
Border lodger, what does that mean? That you sit in the garden? Garden. I'm bordering on lodging. What's that definition then?
In a room, isn't it?
Lodger. Oh, no, okay, so it's a shared accommodation.
Yeah.
Would be my definition of that. Okay, so
moving in, parents, children, friend.
the existing thing.
Partner of existing occupier.
Partner of an existing occupier, is that what it said? I'm sorry, the sound's really bad.
Yeah, partner of an existing occupier.
No, so you're not that either, are you? I thought it was just existing occupier. So just tick border lodging, the one that's most applicable to you again. So at this point, it's where anything that you've had to imply, let's say, under duress because you haven't got another option because you've been presumed, write it in the box. So in reference to box whatever number. There wasn't, I didn't have the relevant option. You didn't give me the relevant option that is accurate to my standing. So I've ticked this one in order for me to complete the box. However, everything else remains the same. The only thing that changes is Minister Emoven is a liability holder at this address. Please update your records. And that's it. So it doesn't really matter if you've forced into ticking one of these boxes. You can remedy it at the bottom.
So no relevant option was available. So complete.
So I've ticked tenant or whatever. I've ticked so in relation to box question number blah blah blah, whatever number that is. 4, is it?
It's not actually got a number. It's
okay.
just.
So in relation to the question regarding tenant status, etc.
Property you're moving to.
Property you're moving to. That's the address.
And then, so beneath that one, it is your new address.
It's your new address. What you've got to think of is what is this form actually trying to determine for the website? It's trying to determine, has somebody moved within Hereford or have moved from another county into Hereford, or has somebody moved out? That's all that this form is trying to determine. So imagine there's like a little flow chart going on in the background. So you can't ever get it wrong anyway. And if the information that you've put in there, because what you're doing, you're making it so that these councils have got nothing to come back to anybody with. So you can tick anything you like in there, but make sure that whatever it is that you put in there, you've explained it in the bottom, in the boxes. So if it asks me twice with the same, what address are you moving into? Well, it's that address, the address that I'm just updating you the information of, and then asks you what's your new address. Those two things are the same thing, aren't they? Unless you've ticked moving out or moving in within Hereford. only at that point would there be a contract would there be a joindering of this information. Does that make sense?
So, sorry, that last little bit about the address.
The joindering of the information. So on your form now, you've got what address are you moving into?
Yeah.
Now we've already told that we've already moved in, haven't we?
Right.
Right. So it's the what I'm saying is that it doesn't matter if you have to enter the information twice for the form to continue. Put that in as many times, but don't ever add any other information other than I'm moving into this address on this date, and this is me as Minister Emoven notifying you of that matter.
Right, that makes sense. And then I got the date here, so I'll have to look up the date I gave over my assignment of consent. And then, are you the only adult over 18 moving into the property? So that's pretty.
Is that just a yes or a no option in there?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So just put yes.
And
the reason why it's always yes is because I'm under non-disclosure. So if you were calling them, for example, and they were asking these questions to you over the phone, and you got to this point, and you would say yes, and they would say to you, so there's nobody else living at that address over the age of 18, and you would just say, I'm under non-disclosure, because the next questions might also be, how many children live at that address under the age of 16, for example. They're just data mining all the time. I'm under non-disclosure. I'm not able to disclose that. You can even do that with your date of birth because it's not relevant. You're not required. You're not required to give any of this information anyway, but by leaving it open to presumption, they'll continue to presume. So what you're doing is you're rebutting the presumption in your own mind first, and then exemplifying it to whoever it is that may have benefited from you accepting that as a presumption.
okay, so that leads us on to the next one, which is names of the people moving into the property. So it's got name, date of birth, relationship to you. So I have Minister Emoven, and that's it. That's all I need to put. Yes.
Yeah, and if you need to put something in those boxes, you can put NDA 1. That's non-disclosure agreement 1 that we're all subjected to, and that we entered into when we assigned our consent, because that's the whole point of having a trust. I'm very sorry, I'm under non-disclosure. I speak to my trust.
Brilliant. And sorry, what was the abbreviation of that?
NDA 1. It's written on your document. So people contact me and say, what's this NDA 1? Am I supposed to write anything in here? NDA 1 is non-disclosure agreement. The whole point it's there is because, any one of us could have written anything in there at any time. So the fact that it's got NDA 1 written in a document, if you ever see that anywhere, it means that there's a reason why we're not disclosing that information to whoever it is that's reading the document. So you're standing under your non-disclosure. You don't determine these documents or what, and I can't determine I'm under non-disclosure and it's this. It means that I can't tell you what's going on because of universal law and I've got a trust and That's disclosure. I'm under non-disclosure, but hey, I've just booked my meters to be changed with this legal fiction on Facebook. No, the non-disclosure only works if you use it. And so it doesn't feel comfortable when you first start doing it. It makes you feel like I'm being rude. But the more that you do it, you realize that you're reserving your rights. Mm-hmm. And that because you've been disclosing all your life, every single thing that you ever did, every breath you took now, you've been building a profile for this fictional straw man, let's say, that then has been, used against you. So why would you disclose information to people who are going to use it against you? Better that you stand silent and under non-disclosure, and your silence can't be used as acquiescence then, because you have stated I'm under non-disclosure. And this is why I say, I'd love to contract with you. I really love to contract with you, but I've got nothing to contract with you with. I've got this. And you say you don't recognize it. So if you don't recognize what it is that I've got to offer in order for us to create this contract that you wish to make, then you're the one who is rebutting the presumption that I can be in commerce with you, not me. I'm not the one saying I can't commit commerce with you. I'd love to commit commerce with you, but I just simply haven't got the thing that you want me to have in order for me to commit the commerce.
And that can go all the way through the process. I get it. So if they made life difficult for me or whatever, that NDA one is something that I'd always refer to.
Yes, because the legal fiction system stands under the NDA of their system being protected at all costs. And that's why, which is the undisclosed terms and conditions of the birth certificate and the use of the legal fiction. So when you say my name is under non-disclosure, it really is. I'll be prosecuted if I use it. Those two things are true without anybody doing anything with the trust, with anything, with any piece of the paper. Just people knowing those two things. Well, what do you mean it's under non-disclosure? The terms and conditions of the creation of that legal fiction that you want me to use weren't disclosed to the people who created it, which wasn't me. Now, I can't take somebody's name and fix a contract with it without their consent. That's fraud. And so actually going into the court, and they slipped up here and they accepted Minister Emoven into the court in order to create a injunction against somebody who's laying a false claim.
Right.
And at the point where we got to that, the non-disclosure was broken and they allowed it to be broken. And the minute that she realized that she'd broken her own non-disclosure, that was it. All of them, 5 of them, jumped up and just left the court and didn't come back in. The court was shut. And I'm still sitting in there 20 minutes later with scratching my head, asking my daughter to find out, to speak to the last person who was in the court, what's going on. And she just said they've shut the court. And that was it. And those courts never opened again in their first instance. They had to get the appeal courts to come because the first instance had breached its own non-disclosure. So it couldn't exist because it only existed. It only existed because nobody knew that was under non-disclosure. And so by setting the precedence of breaching that non-disclosure, it set a precedence for every other non-disclosure to be breached, which meant that everything that is under non-disclosure is now out in the open because it was all openly on a court of record. It is recorded that on the, I think it was the 9th or the 11th of February 2019, in the court of Samos, the non-disclosure of the whole administrative system was breached simply by stating that the reason why I can't create a contract, and I'm here presenting this case myself as Minister Emoven, is because the thing that you want me to use to create a contract with your system, to create a contract with a lawyer, to get the lawyer to come and represent me here, I don't have. And I've got testimony from the woman in the tax office that I, as Minister Emoven, do not exist in your system. So what you're asking me to do is to create a contract where one doesn't exist, commit fraud in order for me to do that, use something that doesn't belong to me and ignore the thing that I am saying that I am. Well, you can't give me legal remedy from that point, can you? Because your legal remedy comes from a place of fraud. And it's that. That's what that's what those documents outline and not define. It's a letter from you to you saying, hey, remember, you're under non-disclosure and you'll be prosecuted if you use that name. So who is it that's prosecuting you? You. Who is it that's claiming against you? You. So really, you're demurring it. You're reserving your rights from being implied that you consent to anything that comes after the use of that legal fiction. So this is why it's so important doing these steps and filling these little boxes of data that's harvested with not applicable or under non-disclosure, nothing, empty boxes. And then they can't sell it, can they? There's got no value to it.
Value, they take less interest, I assume.
They have no interest, do they? It's us that gives it. When we talk about these words that we use, have no interest. They haven't. There's absolutely no interest in it for them to try to commit commerce at that address, because there's nobody who's popped up and said, "Hi, I'm happy to commit commerce with you as the incapacitated legal minor. I don't know what's going on." Suddenly, it's got Minister Emoven there. They're like, "Oh my God, not another one of them." Next.
Right. Okay, so on to the next one is, are you currently in receipt of council tax reduction at the address you are moving from?
I just put not applicable in there, NA.
Well, it's got yes, no, it's a yes, no thing.
Just put no.
And then we've gone to the box at the end with any additional information. So I guess I fill in there so no relevant option.
Here's a good statement. Due to the fact that your website has preempted my circumstances.
Preempted my
Circumstances.
yeah.
The information contained within is incorrect.
It's incorrect. Yeah.
I am the liability holder at this address.
Yeah.
From this date.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Okay.
Please update your records.
So then I will send this off in a minute after this call, and then that's it for the time being. I guess I get a letter from them or something, will I?
Yeah, and there some council sites there you can have the address, the corresponding address can be different to the address, the property's address. So you can put the PO box, the suites 125 Home Street, Halifax, HX7 8AA in there, and it'll come directly to us. These charges that they are implying are then collected and used firstly as evidence against them, because they shouldn't be trading or attempting to commit commerce, because that's what the secured party credit filing secures and quietens, is the presumption that commerce can be committed upon the rights of the people in our communities. So by accumulating this evidence, it gives us a very good case to put towards the Ministry of Remedy as we're getting to that level now. So the other part of it is that we can take those charges. So if they're saying that you owe 1,200 for the services at that address for the year, we'd just take that and discharge that against the debt that their agencies have got with us. So it's just like for like. We're discharging the charges that should have been discharged by your government, which is the reason why we said yes to having a government in the first place, was because they said that if you consent to us be existing, then all of your charges will be discharged of the commercial system that you have consented to by using the name, granting your share of the planet and its resources to us to play our game of commerce with, and all your charges of existing in a commercial realm will be discharged through the trust services, which is what would make you the beneficiary of the trust. Now, obviously, it's never been performed like that, and it could have been. And this is exemplifying how easy it could have been for everybody to have lived a discharged life But better, what we've done is learned that if you want to commit commerce on the rights of the people and we consent to it, look what we get. So it's taught the people that actually I'm all right, I'm good to go, as long as I lose the belief that I need to capitalize on my rights, then suddenly my rights can't be capitalized on. So you've got them in your hand, if you like, in your control, instead of giving them away to somebody else. And so as you do this, and the next person, the next person, the next person, the people who don't understand or comprehend any of this, suddenly they find that their rights are being unaffected because we all stopped consenting to having our rights being capitalized on as a collective. So whether the other people comprehend or not, suddenly, their right to shelter is restored to them. They don't need to know how or why. They didn't know how or why it was that they were living in the street. They're scratching their heads. Even the people who are not living in the street are scratching their heads walking past these people living in the street and saying, how the hell did they end up there? Oh, they must be drug addicts. There must be all of this. It's because of capitalism, of our rights to shelter, that people live in the street. So it's because of our capitalizing on our right to sustain ourselves with our food that people are in the hospital because they're eating crap, and taking the pharmaceuticals therefore. And so by what you're actually doing is you're retiring from crediting that system in every way that you were ever crediting it. And every bit of this that you do, you bring back, that you empower yourself and your community, because you're just not crediting it. It's back in your jurisdiction under universal law.
It's a kind of not in my name, not in my legal fiction name.
Exactly, yeah. It's really not being done in your legal fiction name now. We talked about this before, people running around, not in my name, not in my name, but here's my legal fiction and here's my slave tokens. Well, it's very much done in your name, but nobody asked you, are you okay if I do this in your name? Nobody asked you for your assignment of consent. It was presumed from you. So this process where we're saying, look, assign your consent, not to us, to yourself, because it's yourself that needs it. It's yourself that needs to know, first of all, what is my consent? What does it look like? And what has it been used for? Well, it's been used to support murders, weapons, terrorism. We've seen it all around you, homelessness, pedophiles, corporates, government, profit, and capitalism, persecuting people for profit and capitalizing on their liabilities. That's what you have got in your pocket to exchange with somebody else, represented by those slave tokens. Do we want that? No, thanks. We don't want a dividend of that. I don't want, people running around saying, "Oh, the IRS have offered me 1.3 million quid in a dividend as long as I don't take my trust away from them." Or you want 1.3 million share of slavery? Are you serious? So yes, it's a whole reprogramming that needs to go on, and it looks like this in their system, in their virtual reality system. The information that you gave to them created this virtual reality avatar state of yourself, and you've been claiming against it. You've been saying, hey, that's me. You've been claiming against your rights. You've been the one capitalizing and allowing capitalism to be exercised on your rights, and so all of that stopped anyway. You can't even do it if you want to now. From the 21st of March, people are going to be fined for supporting and operating a slavery system under the law through the Ministry of Remedies. So that's quite exciting. That's coming together. And they've got an opportunity to redeem themselves, of course. We're not about persecuting people for profit. We're about putting people in a position where you are, if it's fear that you're talking about, and I'm only wearing this mask because I'm fearful, not of the coronavirus, but of the fine, then okay, and it's fear that you're operating in, then you need to be more scared of wearing that mask, because it represents you now openly supporting terrorism. And so the People's Protection Patrol will be issuing people who are openly supporting terrorism, whether by a mask, whether your registration number is supporting a bankrupted debtor corporate account that is secured by us, by universal law. But we're going to give you the opportunity to redeem yourself with it. So, okay, you didn't know until now what it was you were doing, because if you did, you wouldn't be doing it. And if you now know what it is that you're doing and you continue to do it, now you're knowingly breaking the law. So we're first putting you on notice. You probably didn't know that you were breaking the law. So here's the offer of settlement. Would you like to settle that liability and that debt that you've been creating by breaking the law? No, I love my slavery. Okay, well, if you love slavery so much, you can pay your tax to the slavery using your slavery. And that's where your fine comes in, because what people don't get is that we are actually being fined for breaking universal law by these Metropolitan Police or G4S or whatever, as the administrators of the Vatican Catholic Universal Church system. And so they're prosecuting us for breaking the law, but nobody told you what it was. So how could you not break it if everything that you were taught and coerced into was set up for you to break universal law? So what you need is an equal and exact opposite structure for you to be able to say, okay, well, my rights are reserved over there now because I'm not required to break the law in order for me to exist anymore. That's really the settlement. So people will be given the fine, pay 1,000 slave tokens worth of kindness credits into this account within 28 days, or redeem this ticket with an assignment of consent, with your number plates, with your legal fiction, and just like the website explains to you, at this address, and we will discharge all of those charges. So really, this piece of paper now, when you present it to somebody, it's either their biggest fear, oh God, I've got £1,000 fine, or if they actually look at it, well, this is my get out of slavery ticket. I can send this ticket back to that office, to that address, with all of my liabilities instead, and never commit fraud upon my soul ever again. And I thought I was getting a fine for 1,000 slave tokens. No, I'm taking all of my liabilities and I'm discharging my charges that I would have created had I continued to act as the Vatican debt slave. And these people here have given me the platform that this government and this Vatican system have kept from me all this time. That is what was breached. The non-disclosure was breached.
It's an opportunity. This is a fine, but it's an opportunity.
We don't want your money. We want your slavery discharged. But the only way that we can get into the heads of these people who are so fearful and so used and programmed to, I've got a piece of paper and it says that I've done something wrong and I don't know who it is, but I better pay them in case they come and put me in front of the court. And the penalty for not performing one of these two things, it is you'll be put in front of the court and you'll be prosecuted in accordance with universal law, because we put you on notice, we told you we're breaking the law, we offered you a remedy, and you still decided to continue. You can't buy your way out of this. And even if you put 1,000 slave tokens in and we convert it into kindness credits in the community, and I don't know, buy uniforms or for the People's Protection Patrol in that area, another People's Protection Patrol that month is covered by that 1,000 slave tokens or whatever, then he's still going to go and do it again next month, isn't he? And the next month, and the next, however long it is, until he realizes, bloody hell, they've shown me a door here. And instead of me opening the door and looking in that room and saying, I'm going to make an informed decision about this, I'm compounding my own slavery, but you're only compounding your own slavery. And if you continue to do that as a repeat offender, as you're a criminal now, knowingly committing crime.
Have we got any place for you in our community? Do you not need to go and be rehabilitated? And the rehabilitation centre is not putting people into these prisons where they, get to communicate and compound all of the reasons why they were in there in the first place, but it's to reprogram that mindset. It's a complete retraining program with the people who are going through the traumas of really, you're refugees from the capitalist slavery system. We all are, and we all need to get our heads into a different place. And it's not about persecuting people, it's about offering remedy, and it's about upholding universal law. But we need to create that as a platform, as a standard. So, even in the worst mindset, I've got something else to be scared of now. Now, even at the point where you reach the big fearful state, we took that fear away and said, no, you've got, even your biggest fear doesn't exist in our community anymore. We're not compounding that. We're taking that big fear that you've got there and showing you it was an illusion of your own creation. And that's really what we're discharging.
Brilliant.
Cool. Nice one. So well, I'll send you the link. You've got the link for Sunday night then. I'll just stop recording this. Thanks.